Shohei Ohtani is one game away from tying history. But that's not the real story, because the two streaks he's carrying into this game, reaching base in 42 straight and throwing 22 fifth consecutive scoreless innings, shouldn't logically coexist. One is about relentless offensive consistency, the other is about total pitching dominance. And yet, Ohtani is sustaining both at the same time, against lineups actively trying to disrupt each one. That's where this becomes more than a milestone chase. It becomes a test of precision under layered pressure. The Dodgers enter this matchup against the Blue Jays in full control, a 9-2 start, pitching staff locked in, offense producing in bursts rather than relying on volume. They've already held Toronto to just 3 runs across the first 2 games of the series. Now Ohtani takes the mound in the finale with a chance to complete the sweep and extend both streaks simultaneously. On paper, it sounds like momentum. In reality, it's tension, because both streaks demand opposite kinds of execution, and maintaining them together requires near-perfect sequencing of effort, timing, and decision-making. The obvious narrative is simple. Ohtani is just dominating. He's seeing the ball well, which explains the on-base streak. He's locating pitches effectively, which explains the scoreless innings. Put those together and you get a player in peak form. That's the surface-level explanation. And it's not wrong, but it misses the difficulty of sustaining 2 different rhythms in the same game. At the plate, Ohtani's 42-game on-base streak isn't built on aggression, it's built on control. His early season numbers already showed it. Even when the hits weren't falling, the walks were there. The strike zone discipline never slipped. That tells you something critical. He's not chasing streaks. He's maintaining process. Now flip to the mound. A 22 through third inning scoreless streak isn't about avoiding contact. It's about managing quality of contact. You can give up hits, you can allow traffic, but you can't allow sequencing mistakes. That's where pitching streaks live or die, in how you handle moments with runners on base. So now you have 2 separate demands. At the plate, patience, selectivity, controlled aggression. On the mound, decisiveness, attack mindset, execution under pressure. Most players can't toggle between those mindsets cleanly. Ohtani has to do it within the same game. That's the deeper challenge, and it becomes even more complex when you factor in the opponent. Toronto has already seen him on the biggest stage, the World Series, and those results matter. In those appearances, Ohtani gave up 11 hits and 7 runs over just 8 thwart innings. That's not dominance, that's vulnerability, which means the Blue Jays aren't guessing. They have a reference point. They've seen where his sequences can be disrupted. They've seen how his command can drift when hitters extend at bats. So this isn't a blind matchup. It's an informed attack. Here's the hidden factor. Both streaks are being targeted differently, but at the same time. When Ohtani steps into the batter's box, pitchers aren't just trying to get him out. They're trying to avoid the zone entirely. Because ending the on-base streak doesn't require a strikeout. It just requires one at-bat where he doesn't reach. That changes how he's pitched. Fewer mistakes, more borderline calls, more pressure on umpires to define the zone. Now shift to when he's on the mound. Hitters aren't trying to dominate him early. They're trying to extend counts, force deeper pitch totals, create one inning where fatigue or sequencing slips, because that's how scoreless streaks end, not with one bad pitch, but with one overextended inning. So Ohtani is facing 2 coordinated pressures, pitchers avoiding him, hitters engaging him longer. That's a difficult balance to survive. The turning point in this game won't be obvious. It won't be a home run or a strikeout. It will be the first moment where one of those rhythms breaks. If Ohtani expands the zone just once, chases a pitch he's been laying off for weeks, that's how the on-base streak ends. If he rushes a sequence with runners on, tries to escape too quickly, that's how the scoreless streak collapses. And here's the key insight. He doesn't need to fail in a big way. He just needs to lose control in a small way. That's how streaks like this end. Quietly, almost invisibly. But if he maintains both through this start, it tells you something even bigger than the numbers. It tells you his internal timing is fully synced. Because sustaining both streaks requires perfect pacing of energy. He can't overexert on the mound or his plate discipline slips. He can't overfocus at the plate or his pitching rhythm tightens. Everything has to stay balanced. That's not talent, that's calibration. And It's what separates elite players from historically unique ones. There's also the historical layer. He's one game away from tying Ichiro Suzuki's 43-game on-base streak, the longest by a Japanese-born player in MLB. That matters, not just as a record, but as a stylistic contrast. Ichiro built his streak on contact and bat control. Ohtani is building his through a hybrid approach, power threat combined with plate discipline. Different methods, same result. But achieving it while also dominating on the mound, that's something entirely new. For the Dodgers, the implications are massive. If Ohtani sustains this level, it stabilizes both sides of the game simultaneously. You're not just getting production, you're getting predictability. And in a long season, predictability from your best player is the most valuable asset you can have. It shortens games, it reduces bullpen strain, it forces opponents into reactive strategies. For Toronto, this game is less about stopping Ohtani completely and more about disrupting one side of his rhythm. They don't need to do everything. They just need to break one pattern. Because once one streak ends, the mental load shifts. And even for someone like Ohtani, that matters. In the end, this isn't about whether he extends the streaks. It's about how thin the margin is between continuation and collapse. 2 streaks, 2 different skill sets, one player managing both in real time. And the outcome will likely come down to something almost invisible. One pitch taken instead of chased. One sequence slowed down instead of rushed. One moment where control is either maintained or just barely lost. 2 streaks, 1 game, and both could break fast. Because when Shohei Ohtani takes the field tonight, he's not just playing, he's balancing history. A 42-game on-base streak, the longest in baseball, a 22 2/3 inning scoreless streak on the mound, the longest among active starters, and both are walking into the same pressure point. The Toronto Blue Jays win. This isn't random. This is a rematch loaded with history, tension, and unfinished business. The Los Angeles Dodgers are rolling, 9-2 start, pitching locked in, offense clicking. But this game, it's different because Ohtani isn't just in the lineup, he's on the mound. That's where things get dangerous. Let's start with the streak at the plate. 42 straight games reaching base, not a hit streak, something harder, walks, singles, anything. Just don't make an out without impact. One more game, and he ties Ichiro Suzuki for the longest streak ever by a Japanese-born player. That's not just consistency, that's precision over months. His last game without reaching base, August 23, 2025. Think about that. Different season, same dominance. Now, flip to the mound. 22 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings. No cracks, no runs, no breathing room for opponents. Among starters, nobody's been better. Only Mason Miller has a longer streak, and he's coming out of the bullpen. So tonight, Ohtani can take that lead back. 2 streaks, 2 paths to control the game, and one opponent that knows how to disrupt both. Here's where the tension spikes, because the Blue Jays have seen a different version of Ohtani before. Back in the 2025 World Series, they got to him hard. 11 hits, 7 runs, 2 home runs allowed in just over 8 innings. That's not dominance. That's vulnerability, and it's the only recent blueprint anyone has. So now the question flips. Can Toronto do it again, or has Ohtani already adjusted? Because so far this series, the Blue Jays haven't solved anything. 3 total runs in 2 games. The Dodgers staff has suffocated them. Now they face the one arm carrying the hottest streak in baseball, and the one bat that refuses to go quiet. That's the turning point. Both streaks collide in the same game. If Ohtani struggles at the plate even once, the on-base streak is gone. If he slips on the mound even for 1 inning, the scoreless run ends. No margin, no reset, just pressure from the first pitch. And the impact, massive. Tie Ichiro in its history. Extend the scoreless streak, and he becomes the most dominant active starter right now. Lose both, the narrative flips instantly from unstoppable to human. That's how thin the line is. For the Dodgers, it's about the sweep, momentum. Another statement in a season already trending towards something bigger. For Ohtani, it's about control of the game, control of the moment, control of 2 streaks that shouldn't coexist but somehow do. 1 game, 2 streaks, and 1 player standing in the middle of both with no room to slip. Because with Shohei Ohtani, history doesn't wait.